Some people see others as objects. The brain is made of potential energy. The law of the universe states potential energy must be turned into work. An object lifted in the air gains gravitational potential energy, and when the greater force of the hand lets the object go, the object works itself towards the earth using this potential energy. The brain works the same. The brain is a mass of potential energy that works by making calculations and decisions. If the brain, a mass of potential energy, has decisions and calculations made for it, how will the potential energy release itself? One option is through suicide and decomposition. Indignification is when potential energy exists but does no work. This is why you feel an embarrassment when you are told what to do, because you are a mass of potential energy that exists invalid in the laws of the universe, because your brain is not working through making decisions and calculations itself. Ever think about why rape or prison makes a person suffer? Evolutionarily speaking, prison or rape shouldn't be that big a deal. Rape creates life, and evolution loves that. And in prison, you are fed, given protection from the elements. What place is safer than a solitary confinement cell? Pretend you were even brought a member of the opposite sex every day and was told to breed with them like a breeding dog. Does this life sound good to you? No, it most certainly doesn't. Why doesn't this life sound good to a creature influenced only by evolution? That's because evolution is not the only influence on your psychology. You suffer because decisions are made for you. You, as a brain, exist indignified, meaning a mass of potential energy that does not do work, as all your work is done for you, while the people who decide things for you get the joy and dignity and relief of work through satisfying their conservation of life complexes. A woman who has the best thing to evolution, family, sex, evolutionary values, forced upon her, suffers. Why? Because her brain does no work for these things. So she, a mass of potential energy, and a member of the universe, may decide to kill herself to follow the law of the universe, what she is made up of, and the consequences are the same. In fact, research shows survivors of sexual assault are 10 times more likely to attempt suicide than those who haven't experienced sexual assault. That is from Fairfax County Family Services. Suicide is and continues to be the leading cause of death in jails and in prisons worldwide, and suicide rates are typically more than 10 times higher in the female incarcerated population and twice as high in the male incarcerated population relative to the age standardized general population in a given country. Link for sources in description. 10 times as likely for the rape victim. over 10 times as likely for the female prisoner. Don't forget, it's harder to kill yourself in prison than in the free world. Outside of prison, people have drugs, guns, high places. In prison, suicide is much more grisly. Cutting yourself, hanging yourself, asking sadists to do it for you, all while you're monitored by cameras and guards that will make you suffer worse restraint if they catch you. These statistics make complete sense, as the function of the universe that makes you suffer from rape is the same that makes you suffer in prison. The law of the universe states that potential energy must be released, so if your brain does no work, then the brain must be turned into something else that does work in this system called the universe. This is because the brain is made up of atoms, protons, electrons, and nuclei, potential energy. This means decomposition through death. This is why prisons are a punishment. You are charged like a battery full of potential energy for your crime, left with, by the laws of physics, a fate worse than death, not allowed to kill yourself. If you try, you are restrained, charged like a battery further, if caught. All for the order of evolution, conservation of life complex of another person, like in rape. A rapist doesn't care about a person's experience of reality. A rapist sees another person as a tool or object to use for their own one-sided conservation of life complex, leaving a person to suffer a fate that is for many women a fate worse than death, as many women kill themselves afterwards. Police, psychiatrists, rapists, conservation of life complexes make decisions for others, leaving them charged to suffer to satisfy their one-sided conservation of life complexes, leaving others suicidal by the laws of physics. Evolution will disregard / indulge in your pain to conserve and produce life, leaving you with a fate by the laws of physics worse than death. Some people have conservation of life complexes greater than their empathy complex, so they rape and charge others while working and dignifying themselves, while manipulating you and stealing your dignity and work, what the brain rewards and relieves itself on. If you had no work, you would exist confused and overwhelmed by the cosmic horror of existence until you started following the laws of the universe, so the universe can perfect itself. This means either working or killing yourself. Pigs are nothing but rapist dogs. I think every day about how they will give you a fate worse than death and then stop you from killing yourself. As selfish as rape. It bothers me so much that mothers, sisters, and daughters are turned into bondage, cavity search, sex slaves by force for the one-sided complex joy of work of others. No different than rape, no different than kidnapping a woman and passing her around of a group of Mongol raiders. Pigs disgust me. If a person causes problems, they shouldn't be sent to prison, as it is no different than rape. Instead, they should be sent to an anarchic island of exile. There could be multiple islands, like a sex crime island, finance crime island, violent crime island, etc. They could be sent temporarily or permanently. These would be islands with no authority on it, just islands of anarchy with nothing but nature, exiled from society as they are not behaving in society and are a danger to it, but they do not have to be tortured, as it does nothing but cause suffering. Some people think through evolutionary conservation of life complexes, not empathy, because empathy is not the largest complex in their brain. If you are motivated like this, then you care about a person more for other evolutionary measurements, like how healthy they are and how they are living according to evolution. Are they producing children, etc., rather than caring about their experience of reality. A good example of this is a police officer, somebody who probably always dreamt of becoming a police officer since they were young, as they were born with a certain brain composition. They want to go around stealing other people's ability to decide and calculate and make decisions for them in order to enforce the order of evolution or evolutionary values. They will kidnap and make a person being turned into a BDSM cavity search slave and probably fully rape them behind closed doors in the traditional sense of rape. For example, for drug possession, and when the person tries to kill themselves to repurpose their atoms into the earth, as any mass of potential energy will work somehow or another, they will get no work in their brain because the brain makes decisions, but in prison it makes far fewer decisions that it has the energy for. Then they will be locked in a straitjacket to suffer an even worse fate that they are already trying to kill themselves to avoid. It is so bad. This is because police officers care about satisfying their conservation of life complexes that measure the good and bad in terms of evolutionary values, not human suffering. And yet police officers are some of the most likely people to kill themselves. How one-sided and selfish they are. My suffering and experience of reality is so important, more important than the order of evolution, that I will kill myself when my suffering becomes too much. But others are nothing but an object to beat back into the order of evolution. They think like this because their brain is low in empathy, high in conservation of life complexes. They think like rapists. You are an object of my conservation of life complex that I will make the decision of sex for. That's how a rapist thinks. The only difference between a cop and a rapist is the exact complex they are under the influence of. For the rapist, it's lust. For the cop, it's a stopping death complex. Each has the same outcome of suffering, as the brain must use its potential energy for work, decisions, and calculations in the case of a brain, and since it has its decisions made for it, it lacks work. It, as a mass of atoms, decides there is more work elsewhere, like in the soil, for the flora and whatever else is in the soil. Suffering and pleasure are the most important things to the experience of reality. Some people are selfish in this resource, pleasing and relieving themselves while torturing others. To satisfy a brain with conservation of life complexes greater than its empathy complex, it is wrong because it is selfish and unjust on the most fundamental level. Stealing from one's most valuable resource, which is the pleasure and peace of using a dignified brain for work, decisions, and calculations for yourself. There is less pain in choosing to not have sex or have children than being raped and given children, despite the fact that having children is the most satisfying thing evolutionarily. Many people say having a child was the best thing that ever happened to them, but humans are not just influenced by evolution, they are influenced by the order of the universe as well. The order of the universe is more important to psychology than evolutionary values, as the order of evolution exists inside the order of the universe. A woman would be happier if she went without sex and children for her entire life than if she was turned into an unconsensual sex slave and bred 50 children. The reason why is due to the laws of physics.